Hello and welcome to another episode of Rico'S Rants. I'm your host, Rico DiGiorgio. So today I'm going to do a really different type of review. I saw a movie last night that I had never seen and had been told for years that I should see it. I'm a film buff, blah, 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 blah. Controversial film. Arguably the most controversial film I have ever seen. Or at least that I reviewed. The movie's Caligula. Caligula. If you've seen Caligula, you know what I'm talking about. This is by far the weirdest. It's not a good movie. I understand why it's developed a cult classic type of vibe. Okay, so Caligula is a movie about the real Caesar, Caligula. He was a descendant of Julius Caesar. He was an emperor of Rome, all that. So it's very much a Roman imperial empire film. It's got the sandals. It's got the Roman suits. It's got the swords. It's so bizarre because on one hand, it very much is a standard British Roman movie. Like, British actors playing Roman generals and Caesars and emperors and shit like that. But on the other hand, this is a movie that was produced by Penthouse, as in Penthouse magazine. I guess they didn't have enough funding in the early stages of making this movie. They want to make a low budget, Roman Empire movie. Realized that there was no possible way they're going to be able to do that just for the sets alone and the costumes alone. So the owner of Penthouse, Miccioni or something, some Italian, he said, "I'll give you your money. I'll be your main producer, but I want unsimulated sex scenes in it, porn, and hardcore violence in the film. If we're gonna, I think his argument was like, Rome was full of orgies. Let's show the orgies. Rome had lots of ways of killing people. Let's show it." I guess they were in such a tight corner that they had no choice. It was either scrap the film, try and find another distributor or another producer, or go this way. And they chose option C. So, it really essentially is two films, and, you have Malcolm McDowell playing Caligula. Who is Malcolm McDowell? He's the crazy motherfucker in A Clockwork Orange. He's always that wild-eyed, I don't know if you can see him, got the shades on, but he's wild-eyed, he's always got that intense Kubrick perfect stare. He recently was on Entourage for a while. Then he was in the Halloween remake, the Rob Zombie remake. And at some point, I'm probably for a Halloween special, I'm gonna have to do a dual review of the original Halloween and Rob Zombie's Halloween because there's many things I could say about both. So you got talented British actors. Malcolm McDowell, Helen Mirren is in it. You got Peter O'Toole and John Gielgud. And they're all playing, it's like a precursor to Gladiator, right? or Spartacus, or something. It's one of those it's sword and sandal movies. But then you have these hardcore, gratuitous sex scenes that's actual porn. And I knew that going into the film, and I thought it was just maybe a scene. But this is pretty prominent. And I'm not going to lie, it's sexy. But, it really just felt like two separate films just smushed in together. And the reason why, and I found this out after doing research, is they filmed the whole Caligula movie with the actors and everything straight. And then after all that was done, they filmed the porno parts like a couple years after, and then just like edited in the film. So I guess the actors were told to react to what was happening. Like, I think they were told, like, oh, look at those people fucking over there. Oh, yeah, look at them fucking. Dialogue, stab, sword, blah, 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 blah. And then I guess they didn't realize how explicit it was going to be. Like, there's ejaculation, like, there's penetration, it's porn. There's no other way of saying it. This is like circa 1979, so, I mean, it's bizarre how this movie was made. You would never, ever, ever, ever see this happen now. Granted, sex scenes and violence are pretty hardcore in shows and movies nowadays, but you're not going to see full-on penetration in either a sword or a dick. So, and I think the main reason why is because of this movie. I think like they were hoping of like opening the doors for the future of putting porn in theatrical films. That shit backfired, hon, man. That was ridiculously a big, like, gamble, and I'm pretty sure they lost. I think this is one of the rare films where Ebert, who I can agree with and disagree with on many occasions, he walked out of this movie. He said it was just pure trash, which is ironic because he was a big fan of like some 70s exploitation films, which this is not unlike. I mean, it's like if you made a if you made it's not an exploitation film, but it's like if an exploitation actor or director made a movie about a Roman Caesar, it would be this type of film. Just bizarre. So, yeah, it's just big budget porn. I mean, ironically enough, it almost looks like it was a precursor to the porn spoofs now, where they spoof a movie. You know, and with all the crazy, funny pun titles like Star Whores or fucking Indiana Jones and the Temple of Poon, or I mean, I could do this all day. I'm a big movie buff, and I know how to wordplay. Let me think of another one. Goodfuckers. There you go. But it was like they were trying to be the first one to be mainstream and put porn in films, but they almost kind of inspired the porn parody genre. Alright, so now that you know that, and I knew that going to the film, it wasn't the reason why I wanted to see the film. You know, my dad's a big fan of Gladiator and all those Roman, movies, so I had an interest in it, but I'd heard all about the controversy of this film. So I was like, I'm curious about this. And yeah, a little bit was like, I'm curious what this porn scenes are. I thought it was just like one or two. And I was also curious to see if the actors were, like the actual actors, like Malcolm McDowell and Peter O'Toole, were in like orgies with porn stars. Because that tickled the hell out of me. I was like, I really want to see John Gielgud in the midst of fucking a porn star, just for the ridiculousness of it. Because I can't fathom that actually exists. No, he's not. He does not do that. But Peter O'Toole is walking around a lot of orgy scenes and talking about it. And then he's, in the background, you see people just fucking. Just like, what the fuck were they? Peter O'Toole must have been hammered when he says, like, oh, yes, I'll do this film. Malcolm McDowell is a strange, dark actor. And you could tell he's just like, I'm into it. Let's do this. He's probably, like, hoping to get laid. So, that being said, I'll try and get through the film and talk a little bit about it. Caligula was, in the beginning of the film, he's a descendant of Julius Caesar. I think he's like his grandnephew or something like that, or his great nephew. And he's more or less named after Caesar. They both have the same name. It was like Gaius Augustus Caesar. But Caligula, his name, Caligula, is a nickname. And it means, in Italian and in Latin, little boots. And the reason why is because he, at one point when he was a kid, he was visiting his father and he saw the Roman army, and he dressed up in a little tiny Roman centurion armor, like a little miniature version. And the soldiers thought it was cute, and they nicknamed him Little Boots based on his little soldier boots that he wore. So throughout the film, he's referred to as Caligula, and as a loving nickname, Little Boots. I read about Caligula after I saw the movie. I was like, I want to know what's true, what's bullshit, and that was true. And apparently, Caligula hated the nickname, but he only allowed close members to call him Little Boots. I think once he became Caesar and had power, he was like, you can't call me that. So he becomes emperor, and for the first 6 months, the people loved him. He was well loved, and it went way too far in his fucking head. And he began to feel and call himself a god, and to think of himself as a god. Thought himself immortal. And then he got really sick and got like a severe fever. This is all, I'm just talking about what's in the film. He got severely ill from a fever, and excuse me. Sorry. I'm talking about him being ill and I start sneezing. Sorry about that. So I guess because he was now faced with his mortality, he all of a sudden turned to an evil son of a bitch and crazy. I also did read sources say that he was possibly an epileptic. So this is like a reoccurring thing where all of a sudden he would have like fainting spells and he would be stricken with epilepsy, which is makes a lot of sense. I think that I even read that he frequently spoke to the moon, and for some reason that's like an epileptic trait, like people with epilepsy talk to the moon or something. I don't know. I don't have epilepsy, so I have no idea. Caligula has a very incestuous relationship with his sister, named Drusilla. I don't remember who the actress who played her. I don't think I've seen her in anything else. And it's very blatant. The first scene alone, it shows young, maybe 18-year-old Caligula and his sister running around the woods, and he's just like grabbing her boob and they're making out against a tree, and like I can understand it trying to be like, oh, they're playful and they're young and blah blah blah, but come the fuck on, man. And even back then, even the Romans were like, we don't really want you to marry your sister or to fuck your sister. You're emperor and you're Caesar, and we can't say no to you, but we disapprove of this. And they even compare it to like the Egyptians. Like, if you want to marry your sister, be an Egyptian. Like, you should be pharaoh. And it was against Roman law to marry your sister, but it was fine in Egypt. And he at one point said, let's go to Egypt and we can run Egypt together. And she's like, fuck you, man. Like, you can't, like, I don't need controversy in my life. You need to marry someone else. And he marries Helen Mirren's character, who is basically, you know, she is a promiscuous woman in Rome. And just as crazy as he is. Like, every time he's tormenting someone or whipping someone or being crazy, she's gleefully laughing along with him. And I'm not going to lie, it was very nice to see a young Helen Mirren. Helen Mirren now is beautiful and talented. I love her as an actress. So this is my first time seeing young Helen Mirren. She kind of looks like Jennifer Lawrence in a weird way. Can I help you? What do you want? Sorry. So, hi, buddy. All right, get down. So the first 6 months, everyone loves him. He gets really sick, and then he becomes a severe son of a bitch, and a tyrant and raving lunatic, and he just executes people all the time. He executes members of his family. But even before he got crazy, he was a devious little shit. His uncle, I want to say Augustus. I apologize for not knowing my history, but it was a 3-hour fucking giant porno, man. I did what I can. Augustus, I think, is his uncle, and he's played by Peter O'Toole, and he has like severe syphilis, and his mind is mush, and he's paranoid, and he like lives in this weird dungeon sect, and this is the time where he's Caesar, but he's like excused himself and is hiding from the people, and he's got this giant weird dungeon orgy, and they're all doing crazy sexual acts, and it's Peter O'Toole walking around with like, you know, deformed face and just like looking crazy and drunk, probably like how Peter O'Toole kind of was, just without the deformity. And on his deathbed, they think he's dead. And Caligula pulls off his ring, puts it on himself, and is admiring himself and looking through a reflection. And Peter O'Toole wakes up and says, "Give it back." And Malcolm McDowell, or Caligula, is like, defiantly, like, he got a taste of power. He's like, "I'm Caesar now." He's like, "No." And then he gets his one little, his bodyguard comes in and kills him by kills Augustus by strangling him or smothering him. I can't remember which one it was. It was really quick, and kills him. So now he is Caesar. So even though his bodyguard Macro did him a solid and had his back and essentially made him Caesar, he has him executed because he doesn't want him to use that as a betrayal. And he even kills his nephew, who Augustus was. It's Augustus's son, and ultimately the next in line to play Caesar. He kills him just so he doesn't have to deal with him, and also so that he doesn't kill Caligula out of revenge, because the little nephew, or his nephew, or I don't know, they all fucked each other. It's all some form of inbreeding, I'm guessing. He witnessed Augustus getting killed, so now he knows. So Caligula is just killing everyone and ordering people's deaths, and almost like in a petty way. At one point when he's sick, Caligula, one of his relatives says, "Oh, Jupiter, please take me instead. Please save, our beloved Caligula." And Caligula wakes up in his fever and says, "Jupiter accepts, or execute him." And he's just taken away and killed. So, is this a good film? No. It has a lot. First off, it's way too long. Even for an epic type film, way too long. And honestly, I mean, if it wasn't for the sex scenes and the violence, I would have turned it off. Not to say I was like, fast forward, I'm like, where's the next sex scene? I was like, I'm getting kind of bored. This is not very good. Oh, look, there's sex. Oh, look, that guy's dead. And then back to the boring, oh, okay, Malcolm McDowell's crazy again. That was captivating sometimes. Just a strange, bizarre film. And would I have done an Ebert and walked out if it was in theaters? No. Because I'm very much like, I'm spending my money, I'm not going to waste my money, I'm going to watch the whole thing and then hate it or love it. But I understand why he did. Man, this was a hard film to get through, but I also understand why it's a cult classic. The term cult classic is just basically means it's an acquired taste. That's all a cult classic means. I also I would like to see another version of Caligula. And the thing is, they released two versions. There's the, we'll call it the producer's cut, the penthouse cut, and there's the actual the censored cut, the director's cut. So I saw the producer's cut. And that means I would have been bored out of my fucking mind if I saw the, tame version. they could really do a good version of Caligula now, especially with like all the people interested in those types of shows and movies. Like Game of Thrones would and I'll talk about Game of Thrones in a second. It sparks that fascination. People have always been into gladiator Roman sword stuff anyways. Occasionally they'll throw one out there. And Caligula is a fascinating guy. I mean, he was an inspiration for King Joffrey on Game of Thrones. So that weaselly little son of a bitch, that's Caligula essentially. So what would I give it? I'd give it 2 stars, and that's really one of my lower ratings. And I'm not giving it anything less because the sets are beautiful, the costumes are great, or in some cases the lack of costumes are great. Malcolm McDowell is always fascinating. He's, I haven't seen a whole lot of his stuff, but what I have seen, I've enjoyed. I've been very, he is crazy, and he's crazy in this. Imagine if, you took his acting and his character in A Clockwork Orange and just put him in a toga. That's essentially this movie, but with porn. A Clockwork Orange. Anyways. So yeah, I mean, it just felt like 2 films just smushed together. And I don't need to see porn to be entertained. I don't need to see violence to be that entertained. There was some, I will say there was a couple awesome death scenes. I'm like, ooh, shit. And I'm like, I gotta ask my dad if that's how they, kill people, because he would know. He's a history buff. Would I recommend it? No. I would warn people about it that want to see it and have not seen it. If someone at work says, hey, do you have Caligula? I'm like, have you seen Caligula? Do you know what it's about? I don't ever want to sway people from watching a movie. I want everyone to watch everything. But this is something that a teacher who wants to teach her students about Caligula, like Roman history, and didn't know about this movie, I'd be like, you should not put this on. First off, I don't know how accurate it is to history. They may have taken some liberties. So who knows if it's an actual, true, faithful, historically accurate film. Second of all, it's too controversial. You could find a BBC special that probably has more information, is way more tame. So yeah, I would not recommend it. And I really enjoy Malcolm McDowell, and I like Helen Mirren and Peter O'Toole and all the other people, but no, man, fuck no. Fuck no. So 2 stars, sorry, and I wish I could give it more, but, and 2 stars is me being generous because I saw they were trying to make one film and then one person fucked it all up. And if they had a better writer, if they had, if they had a better director, some of the scenes are really long and unnecessary. Like the opening scene is just like, you don't need to see this. And they've tried to focus too much on the porn and the violence, and it's just unnecessary. So yeah, comment, let me know what you thought. Have you seen Caligula? If you feel the same way, are you one of those people that loves it for the way it is, or did you hate it? Well, I mean, I didn't hate it. I'm glad I saw it. Now I don't ever have to see it again. I told my friend as I was watching, I'm texting my friend, I'm like, dude, I am watching this fucking movie. And he's like, well, tell me about it. I'm like, and I told basically a rundown version of what I just said. And he's like, fuck off, you're messing with me. I'm like, dude, I swear I could not make this up. And to prove it to him, I filmed scenes with my phone aimed at my laptop and showed him, yes, this is I was really trying to not just show him a porno. Because he would have been like, dude, you're watching porn, you're sending me porn. I'm like, no. That's Malcolm McDowell walking and talking, and then there's a porn, cut into it. Because there's an orgy scene, Caligula's walking around talking, and then all of a sudden, they're fucking. And I had to show him that to prove. I'm like, this is not I'm not making shit up. This is not a porn parody. This is a legit movie. This was released in theaters. So yeah, let me know, guys, and tell me what you thought. Like, subscribe, share, comment, and fuck, love you all. This movie was weird though.